Welcome back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7. We're also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. My guest joining me in studio this morning, the Honorable Alexander Akwesiakwa, is Member of Parliament for Achimota constituency and also a member of the Trade, Industry, Tourism, Health Committee, Government Assurance Committee as well. It's with us. Good morning. Honorable, welcome.
Yeah, morning.
Also, Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon. Professor Ransford Jampo, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Also, we have the Honorable Samuel Okojato Ablakwa, the North Tongue Member of Parliament, the ranking on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, many other portfolios that he served as well for the good of the country. Good morning.
Good morning, Alfred.
Great. And Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He is a leader of one of three individual bondholder groups and then also the convener for the Komepre Corridor, the demonstration. Mr. Pebo, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Okansi.
Great. So this is not indeed the first time that the calls have been made for the president to take a second look at the latest appointment to the Electoral Commission. In fact, just a day after he swore them into office, not just the NDC, but civil society organizations, including well-meaning Ghanaians, raised concerns about the politically exposed persons who have been appointed to the commission. The president, in swearing them in, said, and I quote, "I have said it before, and I will repeat it. Elections are about those who cast their vote, not those who count, not those who supervise, not those who transmit, and not those who declare. The heart of the democratic process is giving effect to the choices made by those who cast their votes." To wit, that the persons appointed to the commission have little impact on the outcome. Is it really the case? But let's take a look at this. These are the people we're talking about, that the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers is the latest to call on them to honorably resign or the president should sack them. We're talking about two out of the three. The first is what you see on the screen. Dr. Peter Piahine. Here's what we know about him. He's the chair of the Department of Computer Science and Informatics at the University of Energy and Natural Resources until his appointment, and also assistant professor with over 10 years working experience, head science and informatics at the same university, CEO of CY Technologies and consultancy. Is also, as mentioned previously, as patron of TESCON, and included in, at a point, he was included in the 6-member shortlist for the Bono Regional Minister position in 2021. The second person that Kodeo is asking that he steps aside or that is honorably resigns or the president sacks them is Hajia Salima Ahmed Tijani, banker with close to 2 decades of experience, senior remittance officer, Agricultural Development Bank, and a member, Chartered Institute of Bankers, associate member, Boardroom Institute, Bachelor of Arts degree in Integrated Development Studies from UDS, and MBA in Project Management from GIMPA. So these are the two out of the three who were recently appointed. Let me start off with you, Honorable Akwesiakwa, on this. That do you see through the concerns that even though the president acted right constitutionally, because the constitution is silent about the political exposure or association or affiliation of persons appointed to the Electoral Commission, the impact, the signal, and also the optics is of concern in this instance?
Good morning to you and your cherished listeners and viewers, and also to my co-panel members. Alfred, this issue has come at a time that we are trying to ensure that the sanctity of the Electoral Commission is maintained. Now, my take on this is the president, like you clearly stated, has used his constitutional power to appoint these ones. Initially, it was Dr. Piahine, where people related him to our party, NPP. As I sit here as a member of parliament for NPP, Achimota, I haven't had any relationship with Dr. Piahene, and I don't know him. So I do not have any evidence that he belongs to our party. Now, if you look at some of the things that have churned out in terms of flyers, the videos, one would say that in his private capacity, he may ascribe to a political ideology. So initially when the issues came up, we realized that some of the flyers that came up were fake. It had been done by certain people for that particular agenda. You know, and so if you really want to analyze Dr. Piahene and what has been said about him and how quickly people mobilize these flyers just for him to really become an NPP member, to discredit his appointment to the EC, then you want to ask who is qualified to be on the board of EC. Certainly, we are related to each other. Now, for people who are political animals, you would definitely have had some relationship with a political party in the past. Should that be a bar against you in some form of appointments, especially when you haven't held any political office, especially in that political party?
He's been quoted as being a patron of TESCON. In fact, if he wasn't a member of the party or all the videos you've seen wasn't true, I think he would have actually come out to discredit that or disprove. But as far as I do know,
there is one reaction. There's one reaction that came up that doesn't actually recognize TESCON on campus. I have that reaction, and so for somebody to say that he has been a patron within that time frame that was quoted is not true. That reaction had come up.
How about the videos as well? You know,
the videos
to the extent that the argument is that you are allowed to be political. That's what you're referring to. That at one point in time or the other, these persons may have been associated or express some political opinion.
That's it.
But there's a difference between being...
Expression of political opinion do not actually mean that you belong to a political ideology. Because for the videos that I've seen, he was praising the free SHS, which is a policy that had come for all Ghanaians, and all Ghanaians have embraced it.
In fact, that's not the only one.
That's what I have seen. Okay. That's what I have seen. And it's that video had been used as one of the issues against him, that he was supporting a government program. And you want to ask, since when? Since when did supporting a particular government program make you a politician or somebody belonging to government?
Okay.
You understand? So that is, I mean, for him. Now, if we look at Hajia, I think that this whole Kodio thing has been very unfair to her.
Meaning?
Because if you look at it, they have just traced his relationship with some politically exposed people. So she herself cannot be said to be a political person. But perhaps she may have been related to this person or that person who is an appointee or that. Is she being appointed or per her qualification and standard, or per her family relationship? Why are we doing this to ourselves? We are related to people. We are social beings as Ghanaians. And so definitely we are related to each other. Now in future, if I sit here, and one of the people that I cherish so much in my political life is the late Lieutenant Colonel J.Y. Asase, who is somebody that my father comes after directly. Because I knew him, I was with him, we saw how he was with PNDC and all of that. Today, if somebody goes to see that I'm so related to this late soldier, would that bar me from taking any political appointments?
So, but I think the distinction here, and I'll come to Professor Jampo in a bit, that you can't be political but not partisan. I mean, there are two different things. So, in the case of this, Dr. Apiahene, yes, would you agree that yes, he was political, but being partisan, as in going onto a program talking about not just the free SHS, but a number of videos that have been seen where he's talking about the new patriotic party, overly exposed him and may rather be of concern to, and I'm sure if you look at it from the neutral perspective, being appointed onto the Electoral Commission would impact on the credibility or neutrality of the commission because of the perception.
Alfred, I have seen videos of Professor Dr. Apiahene talking about free SHS. I do not know whether praising or lauding a government program makes you partisan. If in this context we are taking him out of a political personality and we think that he was too partisan by talking about a government program. I do not know him as a government communicator. I do not know him as a party communicator. I haven't met him anywhere. He's not on any platform that I know. And so if perhaps he goes on radio and he wants to support a government policy, it does not make him one of us. It does not make him a party person. He is an ordinary citizen who is so interested in the development of Ghana and is so excited about our government's program and wants to champion it. So at the end of the day, if he does that and he's caught the president's attention and he's been appointed, does that make him partisan?
But do you agree that he fits the definition of a politically exposed person? And for that matter, that alone sends worrying signals of his appointment onto a commissioner that's supposed to be neutral.
Well, he may be interested in politics. He may be a political animal. He may be somebody who wants to be heard politically. But I would call him a politically exposed person.
I see. Well, you see, the former EC chair, Dr. Kujaw Jan, personally, from what I do know, decided not to vote. That was his own individual decision. It's not something that cuts across all the others that came after him, but it was his own conviction to stay away from the process of voting. But Professor Jampo, let me bring you at this point, having heard those who defend this particular position that the president has taken a decision on.
My colleague and friend and honorable member of parliament, your work is very difficult. I understand. It becomes difficult to speak up truth to power on matters like this, especially when your party is involved. And I think the whole of the country, Ghana's political history, it shows that it's only one man, PC Apiofori, who could speak against his own party. And even when he did that, I think how he was ostracized by his own party in parliament is a painful lesson to many people, including the honorable member of parliament here, and they don't want to go that route. So I understand. Struggling, difficult, finding it difficult to say that the guy isn't a party person and is not partisan. You see, long before Kudio spoke about this particular matter, I am sure that, Alfred, you are aware
Indeed.
that some of us have taken issues
That's true.
with this kind of appointment. We teach, in political science, we teach about how independent institutions would have to be protected. And one of the mechanisms for achieving or for making institutions independent is about the mode of appointing members into them. It is true, somebody would always be there to appoint somebody. Someone must always be there to appoint somebody. But if you are talking about independence of institutions, then in the mode of appointment, there must be certain measures and mechanisms put in place to ensure that the appointment is done with recourse to meritocracy. That is number one. And then number two, there must be measures in place to ensure that you cannot fault the person who is appointed into independent institutions on partisan lines.
Right.
Let me explain this. You see, under winner-takes-all politics, one palpable manifestation of it is the way and manner the appointment power of the executive arm of government is exercised. Oftentimes, it is exercised in a manner that benefits only partisan cronies without recourse to meritocracy. And so it is not about who can do it, but it's about who is a party person.
Right.
Okay. When you talk about not allowing party people to go there, it is not to say that doing politics is bad. You see, Aristotle says human beings are by nature political animals. We become less of human beings if you strip us of politics. I'm talking about politics. And in fact, if you hear any human being saying that he or she doesn't do politics, it tells you that the person himself or herself has a fundamental misunderstanding of what politics is about. The ubiquity of politics is such that you cannot say you don't do politics. Everybody does politics. But when Max Weber tells you that public servants and people who are going to be operating in independent institutions aren't supposed to do politics, what he's saying is that they are not supposed to do partisan politics. There's a difference between partisan politics and politics. Now, so he's saying that you should not be seen openly defending or openly speaking against one party or the other. That is one. Number two, you shouldn't be seen at party rallies. You shouldn't be seen to be wearing party t-shirts, party knickers, party trousers, party shoes, or adorning yourself in any party paraphernalia. Okay?
Right.
Now, if you do this, then Weber says you are doing partisan politics.
Right.
Okay, so we've seen several videos, and if you dig down, you see so many things that I think one of the appointees, Dr. Appiah, I mean, we've seen it, that he's involved in himself in so many things that makes him partisan in the description of Max Weber. And so such a person...
Wearing party t-shirts?
No, he's seen openly speaking in favor, openly, okay, in defense of a particular party and then in opposition to another. That makes you partisan.
So the emphasis on the open declaration
Yes,
of
openly,
position.
yes. So party t-shirt, being at party rallies, and openly seen to be campaigning for a certain party or speaking seriously in defense of a certain party and in opposition to the other. That makes you very partisan. Now, so we've seen that he's done that. And then you are saying that the school in which he teaches do not recognize TESCON. I mean, TESCON and TAIN, they are not bodies that are formally recognized and documented in the statutes of any university. Okay? But if you go to their dean of students and those other officials, they will tell you that those bodies, they do operate. And so, like I said, your work is difficult. So that
I don't see any difficulty.
your work is
I don't
quite
see any
your work is
difficulty.
quite so that is that the appointment did not first of all take into consideration meritocracy, and then secondly it ignored the fact that the person is a partisan person. Now, on the bit on meritocracy, look at this. See, I looked at their CVs or a brief resume that you presented, you showed here.
Yes.
And I asked myself, how do they merit this particular appointment? You see, I worked with G Mensa for 14 years at the IEA. Now, within the 14 years, me and her, we worked on a program called the Ghana Political Parties Program. It was a program that brought together the then leadership of the parliamentary political parties to meet at the IEA Secretariat once every month to discuss issues of national importance in an apolitical manner.
Right.
Every month. It went on for 10 years. Okay, it was a program that actually birthed the call for constitution review. It was a program that prepared the Presidential Transition Act, the program that prepared the bill on public fund of political parties. It was a program that actually initiated discussions, towards the passage of the right to information. I can talk about so many achievements. Now, if when G Mensa was appointed the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, if you recall, I was the only Ghanaian who went about defending it. Why?
Yeah, most of us didn't
Why?
like it.
Yes, I was the only Ghanaian who went about defending her. Why? Because, in my view, she had that track record of bringing together the leadership of political parties, representation in parliament, to dialogue monthly on key national issues. And given that at the EC, she was going to work with political parties, I thought that they may have looked at some of these experiences that she had. And even G Mensa, people are accusing her of being partisan.
Yeah.
So if that woman, even the woman of that caliber, with that kind of track record, people are still accusing her. How do you bring Dr. Appiah on board? What has he done in the area of election management? What has he done in the area of electoral reforms? What has he done in the area of our issues germane to handling of what has he done? Yet in Ghana, even within the MPP, there are people whose names stand out. I've been writing on electoral reforms. I've worked on electoral reforms. I've been doing a lot of election, a lot of things on election. So there are people whose names stand out when we talk about elections. There are civil society heads. There are civil society leaders. Even there are some people across the divide who, when you talk about matters relating to elections, their names will pop up. And so you're expecting that in terms of meritocracy,
right,
they would have brought on board some of these people. You see, the president, and the winner takes all politics, as I indicated earlier on, appointment is given in a manner that satisfies only party cronies. But this president, when he started, he showed a certain indication that made some of us develop some hope in him. First was about the appointment of Martin Amidu as a special prosecutor. It gave a certain indication that the president wanted a certain caliber of people to be part of his governance, and he was only going to be respecting meritocracy. Everybody knew the pedigree of Martin Amidu and what he could do. Okay, but it appears that in the dying minutes of his administration, Lord Acton said something that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so I am of the view that it is possible that absolute power has corrupted the president, and so he does not so much want to care.
Absolute power has corrupted President Akufo-Addo.
Yes, otherwise, I'm sure that he should have known that the appointment of such a person who hasn't got the track record in that area, and his only track record, I'm sure his overarching track record is the fact that he's a partisan person, he should have known that people would take issues. And you see, what even worsened the case or the situation was the attempt to offer a certain justification of what he did ahead of time. If you listen to him and just what you just quoted,
yes.
The president said that election is not about those who count, but it's about those who vote. And I said, Mr. President, with the greatest of respect to you, it's what that statement's a fundamental misunderstanding of our total electoral processes. Because see, if those who count do not matter, then those who vote will not also matter. Because what happens to a vote that is not counted? He would not have become president if his vote had not been properly counted. And so in electoral politics, those who count are as important as those who vote. You cannot draw a line of demarcation between them. A vote that is validly cast without being properly counted is a no vote. And so if anybody can become a member of the Electoral Commission, then why didn't he just then go across the divide to appoint other people, from outside the shores of the country? Why, if anybody, just anybody, can become a member? You see, we are at a crossroad. We've gotten to that time where the independence of the Electoral Commission is being questioned. We've gotten to that time where there is huge legitimacy and public trust deficit in the Electoral Commission. And so I was thinking that the president would have seized the opportunity to appoint a certain caliber of people who have the track record, experience, and competence, who would come to the commission to wield a certain moderating influences on what the commission does.
Okay.
So that people will say, well, the president is interested in building or rebuilding public trust in the institution. But staffing the place with people who are partisan would always lead to negative perception. You see, when that happens, the Electoral Commission itself will be robbed of its own institutional peace. It needs to work, because even when it means well, people will read all manner of meanings into everything that it does.
I want to stay you a bit on that issue of the three things you mentioned, and I'll come to you a bit. But to you, Professor Jampo, you will talk about track record, experience, and then also the issue of competence, right? Those are the three things you mentioned. I want to look at the constitutional provision on who qualifies to be appointed onto the Electoral Commission. This is it. Article 43(1) of the 1992 Constitution. And when this IEA constitutional reviews, some of these sessions I've attended, they point to this as the root cause of all the issues we're talking about. That one, there shall be an Electoral Commission which shall consist of a chair, 2 deputy chairmen, and then 4 other members. So let's go on. It says the members of the commission shall be appointed by the president under Article 70 of this Constitution. So this is one of the issues, that the appointing authority himself, who is a player in an election, or whose party is a player in an election, has now the authority to appoint the referee of the same match that he's going to take part in. And this is the second problem. The president shall, acting on the advice of the Council of State, appoint the chair, deputy chair, and other members of the Electoral Commission. So the Council of State, in this instance, are thought to have advised the president on this. That's the next thing. Take a look at this one as well. 44(1). A person is not qualified to be appointed a member of the Electoral Commission unless he is qualified to be elected as a member of parliament. Okay. So that's the only qualification they mentioned there.
The framers of the Constitution were wise in putting these provisions there. Look, we cannot legislate to cover every aspect of human behavior. Otherwise, you need a whole human being to be carrying our Constitution. That is why our Constitution is bigger than that of America. Our Constitution, in terms of volume and size, ours is bigger. We can't put everything in a Constitution. But you see, a good leader knows how to see the spirit behind every constitutional provision.
And not go with just the latter.
Okay, so if you go, you see, politicians will deliberately look at the letter of the Constitution and exploit it to their advantage. But you know, where is this person going to serve? He's going to serve in on an independent commission. And so that should straight away tell you the qualification in the spirit of the Constitution, or in the spirit of the provision that one will have to look at, because the person is going to man an independent, commission. If you say that, well, these are the constitutional requirements, we've satisfied it, and even though the person is overly partisan, it doesn't matter, it means you do not understand the spirits behind constitutional provisions. And then you're talking about the Council of State, and they may have advised. But please, with the greatest of respect, our very senior, most respected people serving on the Council of State. So these days, when you speak so harshly against them, then some of them will call you and say, "My boy." So
censoring you.
Oh, not that. I mean, nobody can censure us, for example. But the point is this. The point is this. Who appoints members of the Council of State? I'm telling you that the president appoints quite a huge number of them. And those he does not appoint, he has every influence over how they are selected into the Council of State in a manner that goes contrary to the idea from which we borrowed the traditional conception of Council of Elders. In the traditional conception of Council of Elders, no chief had a hand in appointing any member of the Council of Elders. The Council of Elders got to the chief's palace as of right. In fact, before many chiefs were born, the Council of Elders were already operating in the chief's palace. That's why when the chief is misbehaving, they tell him, now okay? The Council of Elders, they are respective family heads, clan heads of their various of their various families. And so long before the chief was born, that was why in the Bible we're told that somebody was 8 years and he was made a chief. He succeeded. Why? Because he went to sit on the laps of the Council of Elders, and he had no hand in appointing them. Unfortunately, in our part of the world, whenever the president appoints you directly or indirectly, then everybody becomes beholden to the appointing authority. And so, to that extent, coupled with the fact that the advice of the Council of State is not binding on the president, you cannot use the Council of State as an excuse by saying, well, he consulted the Council of State. Did they advise him? How did they advise him? Did the president listen? Is the advice of the Council of State, binding on the president? I mean, these are questions whose answers we know already. So please, my point is that I know I like talking, but let me wrap up by saying that it hurts me, and I'm sad that yesterday I heard Reverend Dr. Fred Digby, a very intelligent Reverend minister, say that he's calling on the president to withdraw the appointment, or the people themselves should also resign. But if you look at the tone and the demeanor of Reverend Digby, you could tell that he knows that the president will not listen to him. And so I am hurt that civil society, it will get to a time that civil society it will be decidedly clear in the psyche of civil society that, look, as for this one, if you say the president will not listen, we should not get to that point where we will all resign ourselves to say that, as for this president, he won't listen. And so we are calling on the people to resign. We know very well that the culture of resignation is not ingrained in the psyche of public servants in Ghana. And so calling on them to resign amounts to merely romancing a stone.
That is what Reverend Fred Digby, Dr. Fred Digby said in that clip we played. But, Mr. Balakwa, so if you're listening to the president suggesting that the heart of the democratic process is giving effect, and I'm quoting him, to the choices made by those who cast the votes. And he repeated himself that elections are about those who cast their votes, not those who count, not those who supervise, not those who transmit, and not those who declare. That's really the fundamental duty of the Electoral Commission. But he says that the real process, the heart of the democratic process, is on those who vote. So those who are appointed onto the commission may have little or no effect.
So, Alfred, as Professor Jampo has eloquently espoused, that concept of the president is totally flawed. It is jaundiced, it is dangerous, and it cannot be accepted in any decent democracy. The president himself, this is a novel theory to him. he himself. I have here an extract, which is still online, widely publicized, Ghana Web, My Joy Online, Awake News, and the others. The president was addressing the Ghanaian community in Nouakchott, Mauritania, on the 2nd of July, 2018. And these are the president's words. The caption of the story, which your viewers can just Google, they'll find it. I won't appoint MPP sympathizer as EC chair, Akufo-Addo. That's the head. And they quote the president as saying, President Nana Akufo-Addo has said he will appoint an apolitical person, as a replacement for dismissed chair of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, as well as her two other deputies, Amadou Sule and Georgina Opoku Amankwa, speaking publicly on the dismissal of the three commissioners of the election management body for the first time on Saturday, 30th June 2018, at a town hall meeting with Ghanaians in Nouakchott, Mauritania, ahead of the conduct of the 31st AU Summit. The president said, as far as the replacement of the three are concerned, quote, we are not looking for persons who are coming to do a job for the NDC or for the MPP. We are looking for persons who are coming to do a job for Ghana. This is what we are looking for the Electoral Commission. The president stated that he had no choice but to act on the recommendations of the committee set up by the Chief Justice to investigate complaints against Mrs. Osei and her two deputies. So what has changed? The president in 2018, when Mrs. Charlotte Osei and her two deputies had been removed, was at pains to assure Ghanaians that in exercising that constitutional mandate, he will make sure that he is fair, he is candid, he will make sure that he will appoint someone who is apolitical, who does not have any political dent, who cannot be aligned openly with any political party. At that time, the president didn't know that those who count don't matter. So you see how the president is contradicting himself. And you see, that's what happens when you don't act based on principle. When you don't act based on fairness, you will be caught up in your own web. You fall in your own trap. So, look, let's be very, very sincere in this discussion. Let the table stand. All our colleagues and friends on the MPP side who are struggling today to defend this, would they take this position? Will this be their posture if it was President Mahama in power and has appointed an out-and-out, a known paying patron as an electoral commissioner? Would this be their position? So you see, the problem we have in this country is that we don't come to the national discourse with the country at the center. There's too much partisanship, extreme partisanship. Look, if I am in the MPP, I would have said, as for this, it is not the right thing to do. And I want to commend a few of them. Recently, on these electoral reforms, the Honorable Kennedy Ejepong said that even though his party is against removing the passport and the guarantor system in that new CI, that proposed CI, he is opposed to it. He's the only person I've heard so far. And that's commendable. That's where we must reach. In this country, in our democracy, at this stage of our democracy, where we are able to speak truth to power, where we are able to stick to our conscience. I mean, everybody knows in Parliament, there are times that I have taken positions on matters that may not appear popular, may not even be in line, in sync. And there was a time I had to even resign, you know that, from the appointments committee, because there are certain things going on that I did not agree with. Of course, I have failed to provide details, you know. So let us, in the national discourse, be sincere, be honest. This claim that, oh, the university has issued a statement that TESCON is not a recognized body in our university? Of course, if you read the university statutes, it's not a JCR. But we all know that they exist. I have gone to that campus, not once, not twice, to speak as a guest speaker at 10 ceremonies. I have been told when I was there that, oh, you know, this is the weekend that was allowed, so our colleagues on the MPPs are also having their meetings. Sometimes we even meet fellow MPs, colleagues, exchange pleasantries, and then we part ways. Some are going to speak at a TESCON event. Some are going to speak at a TAIN event. Nobody can claim that they are not aware that TESCON exists at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, a university which was established by Professor Mills. Nobody can claim that. Nobody can say that they are not aware that Dr. Piahine is not or was not a patron. Besides that, he was not one of those you describe as a docile patron or, if you like, a very apathetic activist. He is a very vibrant communicator.
A vibrant communicator.
Vibrant, a member of the communication team of the MPP.
A member of the communication
of
team.
the MPP in the region, in the Bono region.
No.
This is a Bono region?
Yes, and has actively, we've seen the videos. We have seen the videos, and we have spoken to the producers of the shows, how the deployments were done, how he got to be programmed, to be on the panel.
So this information that you have been able to gather.
And the producers have confirmed that it's a member of the communication team.
Yes, and that every week there is programming that is done.
So you speak to the producers
exactly,
of the
exactly.
radio
These
programs.
are things that you cannot hide.
Yeah.
It's a known fact, and that is why the videos are all over the place. I mean, when we've heard these utterances, are we saying that in this country, of more than 30 million Ghanaians, that's all we can find to do an Article 46 job? The Constitution says under Article 46 that the Electoral Commission must not be subject to the control of any person, any authority. Which tells you that it's supposed to be an independent body. Manifestly so. All those who are going to occupy a position key as commissioner in the Electoral Commission must be without blemish, must be people who will inspire confidence. So you see, I come back to this point that we all know that this is a no-brainer. It's like Haas and Kotoko going to play a match, and then Haas chooses the referee, who is a member of their bench, and you expect that Kotoko will accept. It's a no-brainer. It's simple. And you see, when the president now makes a U-turn and says that those who count don't matter. Were we not in this country? I recall when Dr. Afarijan resigned, there were retired, pardon me. There were very well-informed, well-researched papers that came from the MPP that said, look, though the Constitution allows the president to appoint under Article 43, and the Electoral Commission Act 415 has stated how, but can we change the norm and allow for broad-based consultation? I remember a number of civil society organizations came on board and said, oh, President Mahama, even though if you proceed to appoint, you will be doing what the Constitution requires of you. But let us, and I remember someone like the president's cousin, Gabi Ochidaku. Gabi Ochidaku was a lead proponent, wrote extensively. And I thought that it was quite convincing that can we begin to adopt that approach? You know, a broad-based consultation. Open interviews and all of that. You can let, yes, it was discussed extensively. But, you know, at the time, President Mahama had to go according to the law. Just like the president has done. No, but President Mahama, look, let me be clear. No president in our history has done what President Akufo-Addo has done. No president will have even dared, will have had the courage. President Rawlings, say whatever you may say of him, that he was a dictator, he was, a coup leader and all of that, who was now learning the steps of the move. But in appointments, ask all the Dr. Farijan's colleagues, those who were in Legon.
Yeah.
Ask. You know, it was widely received, well embraced. I mean, none of our presidents, not President Kufuor, not President Mahama, will have done this. Not President Mills. I mean, fortunately, there were opportunities throughout the tenure, because you know that even though the emphasis is on the commissioner, there are a number of commissioners. And check, virtually all presidents have had the opportunity to appoint a commissioner. This is the first time we are seeing this brouhaha, where people of manifest dent, who are aligned openly with the ruling party. It's never happened. So, look, this is one of the sordid legacies that President Akufo-Addo is going to leave. Very, very embarrassing. And when you hear civil society, look, I've been reading the statement that Kodio issued. And look, it really saddens my heart. It's like everybody has seen that as for this president, he's impervious to advice. He is like, you know, it's a basket case. Let's leave him there. Listen to what they say. We are painfully aware. This is Reverend Dr. Degbe speaking. We are painfully aware that voluntary and constitutionally grounded revocation of this unfortunate and democratically problematic EC appointment by the president is extremely unlikely. Can you believe that? It's extremely unlikely. However, nothing stops the affected appointees, namely Dr. Peter Piahini and Hajia Salima Ahmed Tijani, from voluntarily and honorably resigning from membership of the EC. Unquote. I mean, can you believe that? That this is where we have reached. And we all know the credibility of Kodio. I mean, how they have helped observe elections. They have been involved in the pre-preparations, during, post-observer reports, and all of that. It's a giant body. They have funded heavily. They are in every constituency. For this respected body to now say, oh, as for our president, we know that he's become impervious to advice. We know he won't listen to us. Because really, it's not only Professor Jampo, many civil society organizations, CDD, everybody. And you see, I was reading the recent Afro Barometer. You know that the Electoral Commission is one of the least trusted institutions in Ghana. Only 10%. That is worrying. You can imagine after this appointment, if the Afro Barometer is conducted again, what the percentage will be.
I think that's the details
one of the least trusted.
Of the round 9 Afro Barometer survey
only
conducted
10%.
By the CDD.
Can you believe that? Only 10%.
Indeed.
Of Ghanaians have any trust in that body. So as I conclude, I think that moving forward, you see, I can appreciate Professor Jampo's point about, you know, the Ghanaian constitution is even more voluminous than the American one. He even could have added the fact that in the UK, there is even no written constitution at all, and all of that. But you see, I have come to a juncture where I now see that over time, even though the framers of our constitution were well-intentioned, they expected that there will be high integrity in public office. Leaders will respect themselves, respect the people, will be honest, will be sincere. A few years ago, you say those who count matter. You are not going to appoint anybody who is politically tainted. Now you are saying those less than 4 years. You are saying that those who count don't matter. I am now at a juncture where I say that, look, I support those making calls for constitutional reform. And we have to spell out, like the Kenyans have done. You know, if you go to Kenya now, after 2011, they have specified, after they had all these skirmishes, the violence and all of that, they killed themselves, all the bloodshed. They decided, they know that those who count matter, like everybody knows, every Democrat knows, every political activist knows. They have decided that you can't be a political party member and serve on the Electoral Commission. It's spelled out clearly in the law, in the new Kenyan law. They have also said that even after the president appoints, you must be subjected to parliamentary vetting, scrutiny, and approval. And then they now leave even the chairperson for them to decide. So as peers, the 7 of you, when you are appointed, you meet and decide who should be the head, who should be the commissioner. It has been taken away from the hands of the president. We may want to start looking at some of those best practices and amend, because you see, I have come to the realization, it's just like ministerial appointees.
Right.
There is no cap, so we are abusing it. We got all the way to 126 presidential staffers. There is no cap in the law. So now we are 1,048 if you add
come to that
the public servants. So I am clear in my mind that, look, because of presidents like Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, let us spell out everything clearly, expressly, explicitly, and bar them from doing some of these horrendous. Look, what the president has done, he's caused such a mortal damage to the democracy of our country. It's condemnable. The president must bow his head in shame.
And in fact, this calls for the constitutional provision as it's just growing because of the evidence of some of the deficiencies in our democracy that we are seeing over time. Obviously, because of the application of the law in a certain way that raises concern. So if you have it spelled clearly in the latter, then if a leader decides not to also take into consideration the spirit of the Constitution, we can refer to what the letters say in black and white in the Constitution. But this is where Lawyer Martin Kpebu comes in, because of what the law says and what the president obviously has the discretion to have done in fulfilling the constitutional provision, but also how it impacts on the spirit. The neutrality, and then also the discharge of the duties of this same body that we're talking about. Because I remember speaking to Albert Ahing, who was once Director of Elections of the Electoral Commission, at a point when you are appointed or you are named, the CID, BNI all do some investigations on your background to clear you before you are appointed. I don't know if that practice still goes on.
Yeah, Mr. Kanse, that practice is basically to check, know your connections and criminal background. Yeah. But, of course, their political affiliation may come up, but, they don't have, they are not asked to recommend that about the person's political affiliation. No. They gather a dossier on you. Okay, right. Where have you been? Who are your friends? And especially crimes and people you are linked to. Maybe are you part of maybe a terrorist cell or no, and all those things. Those are basically, that's a security check, okay, the background check and the rest. So that one may not help in that process. So, Mr. Alkanse, the other part of your question is about the Constitution. You read it earlier, yes? You look at Article 44, it just briefly says that a person is not qualified to be appointed a member of the Electoral Commission unless he's qualified to be elected as a member of Parliament. Then you go to membership of Parliament. Not much will come there. There are the issues of if you've been convicted of a crime involving dishonesty, treason, all those. They don't count it. So let's go straight to the point. So the straight to the point is that, you see, this Constitution has a certain architecture and key, and it's good Professor Jampo is here, so Kujatu also does foreign policy is here, so it helps. You see, there is that architecture, the checks and the balances, the spirit of the Constitution. The spirit of the Constitution in several Supreme Court decisions has been held to be general. You're looking at the ideals. So probity, accountability, transparency. You say it? These basically. So let's go to Article 37. You see some of them stated there. And as I've told you, countless Supreme Court decisions. It's as if every time the Supreme Court wants us to know that, look, let's not joke with this Constitution. A lot hangs on our shoulders. So you take the Supreme Court decisions, and lots of them, they talk about their spirit. So look at 37:1. It says that the state shall endeavor to secure and protect a social order founded on the ideals and principles of freedom, equality, justice, probity, and accountability. You see? Probity. So you are talking about integrity, honesty, accountability. You remember we discussed this same topic about 2 weeks ago when they were sworn in, that Saturday. He said that You can't keep your affiliates and surrogates as match commissioners and referee in the game to be played. That's what I said. Let's put it graphically. People are going to play a game, and then the president appoints the match commissioners, the referees, all that, linesmen or assistant. Now you say assistant referees, right? Yes. No, then the game is rigged even before the game starts.
Yes.
Yes. The game is rigged even before it starts. And you hear what Yasantua said. Yasantua granted you an interview, right?
Yes.
I'm sure now when we say Yasantua, you should know that's Sufa Ekufu.
Yes.
Right? Yes, that's it. And may God bless her for what she's done. Yeah, we'll never forget what Sufa Ekufu is done. All the men that have failed to speak, shame on you. You see, it takes Yasantua to now come and lead the war. Painful men are in the house. Now when we are looking for men, people will get up. But when we are looking for real men to talk, they are quiet. But if you say physical men, you will see some people, we are men. But when you really have to talk, show that you are real men, you can't talk. You see, so now Yasantua is leading us. Hear what Yasantua said. He says, in the appointment, do it in such a way that no political party is disadvantaged. That's what she said. If you watch the Ghana web thing.
In fact, we spoke to her exclusively.
Excellent. Please, can we
have
play
that
it?
video.
Say, do the appointment
let's hear the former Chief Justice.
In such a way that nobody is disadvantaged. And when we say conflict of interest, so we are talking about conflict here. So, Madam Tijani, Salima Ahmed Tijani, her mom is a High Commissioner to Nigeria. Come on, what are you saying? High Commissioner to Nigeria, is it just, there's a political connection. There's a political connection. So how is she going to be independent? So you see why we come back to what Gabi himself advocated years ago, 2016. Was it 2015, 2016?
So her mom was.
That the man was. I hear is. If it was, it's still the same thing. Yes. But we don't deny that it is High Commissioner to Nigeria, right? Yes. So that's it. That's a connection. And as for Dr. Itua, I'm sure everybody agrees. So much overwhelming evidence. So then we still have to go back to Gabi's own proposal. Gabi proposed in 2016 that in appointing EC chair and those people, let's have a public, people who are interested should apply. They will be interviewed publicly. And then let's add this. So at that time, the idea was that the CSO should vote. I'm thinking that now let's go beyond the CSOs, increase the electoral college. Let's do online voting. Citizens can vote. So you see, for some weeks now, I've been going back to the principle that let's go back to ancient Greece, where we take a lot of inspiration from this democracy. So they will tell you that Western democracy is in the what? Footnotes of Plato. That's the writing. You hear, Prof, you can add if they say. You often hear people say that Western democracy is built on the footnotes of Plato. So you read Plato's writings. Of course, he was trying to record Socrates, right? And all that, the things that they suggested. So you read those books and you see what the democracy they were practicing there. Even when it was direct, the people who go into the assembly and vote directly. Socrates saw a lot of things wrong with democracy. That time it was direct too. They would go into the assembly, debate, and then vote. It wasn't this representational democracy we are doing now. So that now Honorable Akwa is representing the people of Achimoda and the rest. No. It was direct democracy. They go into the assembly, and then people vote. Of course, when you follow the history, you see that some people were always docile. They will not participate. Right? But now you see, we live in a different generation. We are eager to participate, but we don't want any partisan labels. So in this moving forward, let's have our own voting for the EC commissioners, the independent constitutional bodies all. We have to vote for them as citizens. Online voting. Online, let's not restrict to CSOs. And Gabi birthed this idea that the CSO should be involved in choosing them.
So who selects the persons who are going to be eventually voted for by the populace?
Good. So I think the original idea was that people should apply. So then there can be a screening, winnowing process. Maybe
but I think if you look at the commission, the Constitutional Review Commission's report, I think there are some recommendations after they had also done extensive nationwide public consultations. There are better recommendations as to how some of these things can be done. If we had truly had an independent Council of State, they would have counted the exercise of some
what
of
we have is not.
no, a council, as I explained earlier on, our Council of State members are oftentimes either beholden to a president or the president is not obliged to listen to them.
Yes.
So they may have
there's a clear
answered
Supreme Court decision that the advice is not binding on
It's
the
not
president.
binding.
It's not
I
binding.
want
they may have
to be able
even
to
advised
finish
the
his
president.
point. Yes, please.
Good. So, listen, let me read what Sofa Kufu said. It's very important.
In fact, let's play that video.
With Yasantua, God bless you. Yasantua is saving Ghana. The others have to get up. The professors in the university, the retired, other retired
Standards for the public service. Public service is anything that the citizens' money, the taxpayers' money goes into. That's part of public service. And the conflict of interest is something which always can be dealt with, whether it is written in black and white or not. If somebody feels that somebody has a conflict of interest, and conflict of interest does not necessarily have to be actual, it can be potential. And so it's up to the public to see what they want to do about it. If it's okay with them, why not? That's all I can say. So even Codeo could even take the matter to court if they want to. Yes.
You think that what the public is saying about them being politically exposed is really, with your experience?
Me, I'm not a politician, and so I don't know what goes on. All I know is that the only thing I can do is maybe analogy on the bench. If there's somebody you've worked with before, or you're about to maybe serve on a very important committee with, you'll be interacting very actively. If they have a matter before you, it's up to you to decide whether you will recuse yourself or not. For me, I would recuse myself, not because it's likely to influence me, but also in the justice or doing the right thing in public service. A lot of it also depends on public perception.
The former Chief Justice there, and it complements that the point you were making, that a lot of these issues borders on public perception.
Yes.
That's key.
Yes, and you remember, like we were saying, the last time there was one day I mentioned the Caesar's wife's test. We don't want any cloud of suspicion. And I think Prof made that point. So Caesar's wife's test is that the moment there's a cloud of suspicion, you come in as a party foot soldier, we would think that the outcome is going to be rigged because you're a party foot soldier. Don't come in. There are enough neutrals in Ghana that we can, get these commissioners from. You say, so you don't do that because you see that Julius Caesar, that story where the Caesar's wife, because of that suspicion that his wife had committed adultery, he said, look, even the fact that you have created this situation where there's a suspicion around you, I'm divorcing you. He divorced her. I don't want my wife to be under this suspicion. So order your steps in such a way that there's no suspicion around you. So, but in this case where Kodoyo has gathered clear evidence, and here CJ Ekufu saying that they can go to court. So I think the first step we have to do, and I was at that function where Chief Justice Sofa Ekufu moderated the session. Listen, Lawyer Kujiti made a submission earlier. It's not specific about Kodoyo, but he repeated this point we've all been making here, that the Ghanaian citizen, we've abdicated our roles. We've become so timid. He made that point. Citizens are not asking for accountability. You've sat home, you are not protesting enough. You want to protest in the comfort of your living room. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. All it takes for you to also step out, just announce as a citizen that you are going to police. Just write to police that one-man demonstration. You are writing to the police that you want to demonstrate against President Akufo-Addo's appointment of party apparatchiki into the EC. And you see how many of us will come and support you. You just step out. You just need a simple letter. The nearest police station, you write to them, please, one-man demonstration. I intend to demonstrate against President Akufo-Addo. Yeah, I'm thinking about, Oliver Bakavomawo wants to do one on 1st July. I'll call him after and we'll see. But July looks far. Maybe we should do one in the next 3 weeks. Yes, we can do one. Another distance. Because we can't sit down. Look, Ghanaians, we can't continue to sit like this. That's not what Kwame Nkrumah did. If Kwame Nkrumah had been this docile, you wouldn't have had independence.
Okay. Mr. Blakwa, and a quick one. I need you to just 2 minutes, and I have to go for this quick break. This is what one of the defensive arguments that the NPP has been putting up after this announcement or the president swearing in these 3 persons was done. A quote from Professor Kwame Ahoy's Working with Rollins book, I know you've heard this, says, for the position of Deputy Chairman, Operations of the Electoral Commission, David Kanga, headmaster of Navrongo Secondary School, and a respected opinion leader from the Upper East region, and who had chaired on the sessions of the Regional Fora on Evolving a True Democracy, organized by NCD, was approached to fill the vacancy, and he accepted, and was known. And the NCD, as you do know, was put together by the late Jerry Rawlings. And so the reference is that his open association, that David Kanga's open association with a certain branch, or there's a PNDC, NCD, and eventually the NDC, did not have any material impact on his functions on the Electoral Commission when he was appointed. And reason why they say that David Appiah-Henne's appointment will not impact on the work of the Electoral Commission in any way.
There we go again. Any time that we need to move forward as a country, that we need to condemn what must be condemned, then we are told that there was something close, something that looked like this in the past. I don't know who ever seen that. I've read that book. There is no evidence of active participation. Even if he was in any way associated to the NCD, which is neither NDC nor MPP, should that justify what is happening today? I mean, it should not. It must not legitimize the clear danger that we are putting our democracy in. Because you see, I always talk about precedent. One day, these commissioners will have to retire and go home. If we maintain the status quo, we don't seek reforms, we don't amend our constitution, and we say that we will continue on this path of perdition in the name of equalization, what will happen tomorrow is that an appointing authority will decide that I'm going to make the chairman of my party, make an Asiedu Nketia as the Electoral Commission. And who can cry foul? Who then can cry foul? So you see, let's be very, 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 very careful. The kind of precedent that we are setting. Meanwhile, we know that in our constitution, Article 296 is very clear. It says that where in this constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, A, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. B, the exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased, either by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with due process of law. So, yes, you have the authority to exercise discretion. You are the appointing authority. But you must, in carrying out that mandate, cover yourself in glory, inspire confidence, inspire public trust. Here we are already dealing with a battered institution. Anytime its credibility is assessed, it's in the lowest percentile. The Afrobarometer is a recent example. You do this. Is the president even being fair to the Electoral Commission? If this commission declares your party winners in any election, even if you have won genuinely, and the people decide that they will not trust the declaration, they will have no confidence in the numbers announced and will pour out onto the streets and will create mayhem like we have seen in Kenya over the past few days. Is that what we want? Is that what the president is calling for? But clearly, this is what this really mindless appointment is going to lead to.